Hi everybody out there. I'm Tab, in case we haven't met yet. So welcome to Art Journaling. Thank you for being here. We are going to go through 8 good for the soul single page art journal designs that I have come up with that will hopefully bring some kind of peace and serenity to your life in this crazy time that we are living right now. My little experiment called Art Journaling for the Soul. Thank you again for being here. I am super happy to be sharing these things with you, and I hope that you enjoy it. Hey you guys, thanks for coming back and doing another journal page with me. I guess this is number 7 of 8, and so I wanted to just kind of introduce it and show you guys the finished product. And so here it is. We've got a journal page that is going to feature some stencil work in the background. We've got some cut paper, and I'm just using old wrapping paper because I know you've got some scraps laying around that aren't big enough to fit any presents that you might have under the tree. So get those scraps of wrapping paper and let's make some use of them. I've also got some just, like gift wrap, ribbon. So if you've got extra of that laying around, I just use that in this journal page as well. So for this page, we're talking about our gifts. Okay, so what are our talents? And let's not be embarrassed to brag here. So let's take pride in what we're good at and go ahead and be able to express that we're proud that we are able to do those things. So we're gonna basically create some gifts, and we're gonna say, okay, these are my gifts. Okay, so that is basically what we are doing. We're stacking our gifts right here, and this is a gift from us to the world. Okay, so we're gonna do this step by step, so follow along. Here we go. All right, so we're gonna open up our book to a fresh page. Find one. Okay. And we are going to go ahead, and if you would like to use your wax paper, you can put that in. And I just like to slide this in here and then just kind of fold it over just to protect those pages underneath. So this, I don't know. I don't really have a huge plan right now, but I do want to use 2 stencils that are vastly different. So if you have more than one stencil, let's use both of them, right? So I want to kind of overlay some different stencil options here. If you have no stencils, you can also just paint the background with acrylic paint, and it's not a huge deal. So I am going to do a stencil technique with just using my ugly brush that I usually use for my Mod Podge. But I do want to also show you guys a really handy way to do stenciling that's super cheap and easy, and you don't really have to spend any kind of money on it. You might have one laying around, and that is a makeup sponge. So you can kind of see I've used this one before, but the makeup sponge is actually the best way. And if you've ever taken a workshop with me, you know that I have one of these in your fun bucket. So this is the best way to do stenciling because it holds just the right amount of water and it doesn't bleed under your stencil. So I'll show you both ways and show you what works on both. So the ugly brush, you do want to make sure that you have it wet first, and then as far as your paint goes, we're just gonna I'm using 2 different greens just because I want a little bit of a variety here. So I'm gonna go ahead and lay my dark green down first, I think, with these polka dots. So I'm just gonna give myself just a little bit of paint. Dime size of paint is perfect. And so my brush is not sopping wet, it's not drippy, and this is really important for stenciling because you don't want it to be too liquid. It will run under your stencil here. So what I will do is generally make sure that I don't have too much paint because I want it to be super light as I'm painting over my stencil, again just to prevent that run under. Now, there's a couple things that you could do. You can continue to paint in like this, and it's just gonna, you know, it's gonna bleed under a little bit. That's okay. This doesn't have to be perfect. But if you also have baby wipes laying around, we've kind of done this before where you can clean off your stencil, right? And kind of fill it in at the same time, okay? And it can be very, very subtle, and it'll fade out kind of nicely. So I would recommend, if you're doing your brush and you have some baby wipes or even a damp paper towel around, I would paint some in, right? And then just take that baby wipe and do a 2-in-1 here and clean off your stencil at the same time as spreading that paint out a little bit. This, I am making this up as I go, so here we go. Let's see how this looks. I'm going to now take my light green, and again, if you only have one green, you can, instead of, you know, having a light green around, you can just add a little white to your green that you have, and you can have just a slight variation in your green color. So this time I will use the makeup sponge, but you can again do the brush technique with the baby wipe again for this part if you'd like to. But to do the sponge, here's what you're going to want to do. You're going to want to get that sponge nice and wet, right? Make it really squishy. And then you're going to want to wring all of that water out so that there's not a lot of water. It should not be able to drip. Okay, so we want it to be really squishy, but we don't want it to be dripping wet. Okay, so that's really important. Oops. Okay, so I'm going to grab my green. Actually, I think I will add a little bit of white to this just because it's a little intense. Okay. Okay, that's kind of fun. Add a little water to that just because I need it to be a little transparent, but okay, so I'm going to take, and now instead of brushing it across with my brush, I'm just going to dab it on with this makeup brush. And because I'm coming directly down from the top, it's not going to run under, and because it's a makeup sponge and it doesn't have a lot of water in it, it's going to be the perfect consistency for stenciling. Okay, so now I've got a double stencil. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to clean my stencil off on this side. Okay, I'm going to do one more little thing. I'm just going to kind of tone down all of this stuff with a little bit of watered down green, and I want it really like watercolor, so I'm just going to fill in all the white spaces just because it's kind of a little bright and distracting. So if I kind of go over it with really watery acrylic, it'll just kind of knock that white down a little bit. Okay, so the sponge, you can recycle these sponges if you, you know, have like a however many 10-pack or whatever. You can make them last forever if you just throw them in your water and just squeeze them out. Once you're washing your brushes, just squeeze that thing until it's nice and clean, and it'll last you a really long time. Okay, so we're gonna set this aside for just a minute. And what you'll want to do is grab some, you know, you've probably wrapped all your gifts at this point, so you probably have all of these little, you know, scraps that are probably too small to fit any more presents. So we're going to, you know, make some use of those. So really what we'll probably do is a variety of sizes here. And so when you have paper that has these nice grids on the inside, it's really easy. But if you have plain paper, like something like this that doesn't have a grid, you can also manage this just fine by, you know, just kind of folding it and then cutting it into a squarish, you know, shape. But what we're going to do is we're going to glue it together so that when we open the gift up, it also has the same wrapping on the inside. So so what you'll do is just fold it over for any size. But if you do have the grid, what I'm going to do is I'm just basically going to do one that is, you know, as I fold it, I'm going to be folding it vertically and horizontally. So if I want a present that is a 2x2, I need to double that up. So I'm going to go 4x4. So this is the size I'm actually going to cut out. Okay. So that's one of them. And then I would want to do, I think I'm going to do a pattern where I go, you know, plaid present, more plain red, and then another plaid present. So I'm going to go ahead and, actually I should do this with a pencil. I don't want it to bleed through on accident. So this one I want it to be a little bit bigger, so I want it to be a 3x3. So if I double that, it's going to go actually 6x6. Okay, so I'm going to cut these out and I'm going to fold them in fourths basically. So if I divide this in fourths, then it's a 3x3, right? If I divide this one in fourths, it's a 2x2. Okay. And so then I'm going to do my biggest one as a 4x4. So I really need, oh boy, I need 8x8. So if you've got enough wrapping paper to do the same sizes as me, that's fine. Actually, I don't even know if these will fit on my page, but I'm about to find out. Okay, so I'm going to do that. So I'll cut these out. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to fold it in half, and we're going to fold it in quarters. And this is going to be a present that basically you'll lift open to be able to see what you've written inside. So if you have a pattern, just make sure you're folding it the way you want it to be displayed in the end. So if I want this to be, you know, a certain way, then just make sure that you're folding it the right way. And we're going to get out our Mod Podge. And the ugly brush, okay? And so I'm going to take some Mod Podge and I'm just going to put it, I'm going to sandwich it in the middle of my wrapping paper. I'm just going to glue it, I'm going to glue it shut. And if there is, you know, overhang, we'll just trim it off. Just try to work out any wrinkles that happen immediately. And what we're going to be able to do is just fold this over. And we'll clean it up before we actually commit to this, but that's going to be one gift that you can open. That's not quite right. Oh, you gotta act fast. You gotta act fast. Oh boy, that was scary. Didn't quite go together right, so I tried to peel it apart, and wrapping paper is so thin that it will rip really quickly. Okay, make sure it goes on right this time. Okay, so get those all glued together, and then we will make sure everything's dry and clean, and then we will get this little present stack put together here. So it might take a little bit of time for your presents to dry totally, but we can continue to work. And the first thing that you're going to want to do is make sure you put your ugly brush in water every time right after you're done using it, otherwise it will not be able to get clean. And so my plan is that I will take these presents and I will have them stacked onto my page here in a certain way. I'll just have them stacked in a corner, right, like a stack of presents. If you have any gift wrapping ribbon, we can use that, or you can certainly paint in a ribbon if you don't have any ribbon. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to trim, because you know you can see like all of the exposed little insides. So I'm just going to make sure all of that's trimmed off where it's going to be showing. So I just want to make it nice and neat. I'm going to go ahead and start gluing these down, but I just want to, you know, kind of make sure that I'm able to actually open this one and then open this one. So what I'm doing is I'm gonna, as I glue these down, I'm just gonna take it, I'm gonna open it up, and I'm just gonna slightly tuck it under the one underneath. So it's just a little bit under, so it's easier to get the tab or the flap up. So this second one is tucked just a little bit under this one, and then the bottom one can just go to the bottom of your page. So that's how I'm gonna try to finagle this here. So I'm gonna get my Mod Podge back out. Get that all nice and secure onto there. Okay, so now we're just going to let these dry a little bit. Make sure they're positioned just how you want them. And now this box looks crooked, so I might just trim it real quick just to make it look straight, because I've already tucked it under. Okay, that looks a little straighter. And I'm just going to let this dry, and then we will paint a little on the inside of our boxes here so we can actually write on top of the paint. And I'm just going to go ahead and Mod Podge just the edges of these down just to really seal it in. Just the edges. But I don't want it to stick, so just kind of keep checking and making sure it's not sticking closed too much. Okay, so I'm just going to get out my hairdryer and very carefully dry this. Now that that's dry, what we're going to do is we're going to take a little bit of just white acrylic, get a nice size paintbrush, you know, that it's not too big and it's not too small, because what we're going to do is we're going to put a little paint on the insides of these so that we can write and actually see what we're writing. So I'm just going to take and give myself a little area where I can write something with a pen. I'm just going to go ahead and give myself a little area to write. I'm just kind of giving myself some little writing spaces here, you know, kind of covering up the pattern so it calms it down a little bit. And you can do this with whatever color you want. If you wanted to do like a light Christmas green, or you can do a pink or a blue, or, you know, it doesn't have to be white if you don't want it to be. So I just picked whatever was easiest here. Okay, so now I have 3 little presents that I can write inside of. Just make sure your paint's actually dry before you try to close them. Okay, so now I have 3 flaps that are going to be my gifts, as I see, I guess, my gifts that I have to give. So now I'm just going to go ahead and make a tag, and I'm just going to make that tag out of a good old Woodman's grocery bag. I don't have a whole lot of room, so I do want to make sure that it is symmetrical. So I'm going to fold it in half, And I'm just going to make a rectangle first. Okay. And I'm just going to make a tag. Okay, so if you if you have a hole punch, great. You could get that out and punch a hole in here, but you could also just do a quick, I'm just going to do a very small little cut, and I'm just going to do a little X so that it cuts out this little diamond shape. And that's how we're going to do, we're going to put the ribbon through there and basically tie a bow on top and have it go through the tag. I put the bow on one end of the ribbon, so I have a lot of excess over here on the end. So I'm just going to double knot this so this never comes unraveled on me. I don't want that to happen, so I'm just going to double knot these loops. It's going to get flattened because you're going to close your book, so I don't expect it to stay pretty forever. I mean, it would be fun to be able to curl it, and it always stayed curled, but we'll just glue the knot area, but we'll let these get flattened however the book flattens them, and that's okay. So this part is going to actually go through the gift tag, so I'm just going to loop that through there, through that little diamond that I just cut. And then this tag is just going to be kind of floating out here in your negative space somehow. I'm going to get this tag glued down real quick. Okay, and then this ribbon here, what we're going to do is just kind of give it a little thing of glue, and we're just going to let it air dry for a little and just kind of keep pressing it down. So I'm going to basically put to the world from me, and then at the top I'll just do a little bit of a more ornate lettering. So I'll just put like my gifts to the world from me. So you can kind of play with making some parts a little thicker and leaving some parts thin. And then we'll just kind of roll right into the detail part where I'm just going to keep on doing my little sketching with my Sharpie and then get out my favorite gel pen. Okay, so now we're going to actually write into our boxes what our gifts are. So I attempted to do this before doing all of the other parts, so I've kind of painted over and I'm trying again. I just hadn't planned it out very well, so there might be some background writing in here that I tried to cover up, and if you make a mistake you can always cover it up with gesso or or paint or whatever. So that's what I did, and I just wanted to simplify what I wrote. So here we go. I'm just going to say